Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening and tuning in. This is the first episode of Scared to Death, Do It Anyway, the podcast. My name is Drew Maidment, and I'm sitting down with the CEO and founder of Ocean State Packaging and the author of Scared to Death, Do It Anyway, Mr. Brian Beneduce. How you doing today, Brian?
I am well, Drew. How are you? And thanks for having me on.
I'm doing great. Yeah, so this is going to be the first episode of a series of podcasts where Brian's going to talk about his experiences with anxiety, agoraphobia, and running a business and the different tricks and tips for motivating yourself and in the sales and business world. So why don't we start off to tell us a little bit about your company, what you guys do, and what your job is specifically and what you've done for them over the years.
Sure. Well, I started with my dad. This is how I got into the company. I started with my dad at a high school. I worked for him on the weekends, and then right out of high school, didn't go to college, worked for him full time, and I was a mechanic. So being a mechanic, I learned the business, as you could say, from the bottom up, because as a mechanic, you fix the machines that empty plastic bottles are made from. And at the demise of my dad's company in 1989, I went to work for some other businesses as a mechanic, and I always wanted to get into the sales end of it because the brokers and the distributors, they always, they drove nice cars and they had fancy suits and they had freedom.
Right.
So I got out of the manufacturing part of it, and out of my bedroom in 1991, I started Ocean State Packaging, which is essentially a sales organization that reps manufacturers, and we sell empty plastic bottles.
Great. So, so you started off in the more mechanics of it, the building and the, building the different materials. But sales is what attracted you. That's what drove you. You were driven for a desire towards what you were talking about. The fancy people dressed in the fancy suits. They were out there making the big money. And I imagine a lot of people who are coming on and listening to this podcast are similarly trying to reach that next upper level. What do you think was the key for you of getting there? From mechanic to salesman.
Yeah, and understand a lot of it was forced, because when my dad's company went out, it was really the only thing I knew, because, again, out of high school, that's all I've done was I was a mechanic, worked on machines, knew how to plastic packaging, how to make a plastic container. So, the reason it was bittersweet, actually. I wanted to be – the freedom part always excited me. It was always – I was infatuated by seeing these people on a Friday playing golf and just getting out early. And when you're a mechanic in a manufacturing company, it's a 24/7, 48 working week a year thing, and it's constant. So when you're sweating at 102 degrees and you got grease all over you and you see these guys coming in suits, and there's nothing wrong with being a mechanic. I loved it at the time, but deep down there was something that I wanted to be them, but I knew getting to that point because of what I was going through was something that I was never going to be able to do.
So it kind of felt like this, extra level or other echelon where you felt like you had to be there, but it felt so far from where you were.
It was a million miles away, and it really bothered me because, I'm only going to use the word humbly once, but I bounced, I worked out, I was this proverbial tough guy, and here I was with all these demons, these this, now we call it anxiety, but I'm going to call it the A word because I am so friggin' sick of listening to that. The word anxiety, it's used all the time now.
Yeah.
But anxiety turned into the panic, which turned into agoraphobia, and we can get into that whenever you like. But yeah, sure. It was a constant fear. It was a fear of fear, because back then, Drew, I'm in my 20s. We didn't have all the information we have now.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was, but I just knew that there was no way. I was only safe in my safe place, which was my home, my factory, my gym. And we went out, there was alcohol, we did our thing. That was something that I always wanted to do, but I never thought I'd be able to do that.
I like that you bring up how, that nowadays it's the pervasive use of the word anxiety and the way we talk about it. And I myself suffer from anxiety. Everyone I know in my life, friends, family, they suffer from some form of anxiety or mental health. It's a good thing that we're having these conversations about it a little more. But it must have been difficult, like you mentioned, for you starting out, especially in this business, to have this unidentifiable thing that was following you around, and you didn't have probably those outlets, like you said, to figure out what this thing was or what this fear was, and so there must have been other ways that you had to discover what was happening with you and how to deal with it.
Yeah, and people say when I gave talks before this pandemic, I haven't given a talk in over a year now, but people always ask the questions in a Q&A session, what strategies did you use when you were going through it? And I always tell them the same thing. I didn't have strategies because it's like trying to fix a machine when you don't have tools to fix them. So
Right.
I didn't know what it was, and shame on me, because I didn't share my fear. I didn't share those inner demons, this mental illness, which we now know is a mental illness. And, it's I won't get into all the science of it because I know all about it's the walnut glands, I'll call it the amygdala, whatever it's called, but
However, the
it's where
brain
your
works.
fight or flight gland is on the right and left side of your brain. And it actually controls the fear that you feel. Now, it could be imaginary fear or it could be real fear. And it's necessary for you to live. I mean, if you see a snake or you see a bear, you need that to kickstart your adrenaline to leave.
Right.
The problem is when you start having these thoughts, your brain doesn't know the difference between rational or irrational. So the same feelings you have, it happens, and it's an irrational thought, and it just feeds and feeds and feeds on each other, and it manifests. And I call it my anxiety tree, and it just grew and grew and grew since I was a little kid.
So do you still, I mean, to this day, even, I mean, I'm sure you've discovered ways of, getting yourself obviously to, accomplish the things you needed to accomplish, but do you still feel anxious when it comes to, big meetings or sales pitches that you have to do or anything like that?
I'm going to tell you this, and I've said this in a few posts that I just did recently. I'm tired of talking to people, present company excluded, when I get on stage and I talk about the woe is me life, which is I need to tell people because they need to know that I've been through it. I've been tested, and I won. I've been through all that. I've been through all the emotional wars you can ever think of. But what I want to do now is I want to explain to people, show people vulnerability. My biggest fear, Drew, is speaking in public. So to answer your question, of course, I still get fearful. When you were coming on now, and we're very good friends, and you and your dad, we're best friends, I still have that anxious feeling. Yeah. It doesn't go away. The difference is it's how you handle it. And my body now knows within a 3-second, 5-second, 8-second time frame, okay, it's an irrational fear. Let's get back to normal.
Right. So you can kind of look at the situation and how your body is reacting and how your brain is feeling to a situation and say, this is my anxiety. It's a real feeling. It's really, but what I'm feeling is real, but my fears, what I'm afraid of or what I'm feeling anxious about is irrational. Let me take a step back and approach it rationally. And
just to give you, for instance, when I used to sell, getting to the sales meeting was a total, we could spend a whole day on it. Maybe we will one day.
We probably will.
But sitting in a parking lot of a hospital parking lot, knowing that you could be at the customer within 20 minutes, hyperventilating, again, not knowing what's wrong with you, you think you're going insane because each thought turns into another thought, the what ifs.
Right.
Am I going to shit myself when I get into there? And it's funny, and I laugh at it now.
No, but it's very real in this situation.
So real. And then that turns into, am I going to run out the window? Am I going to embarrass myself? And now this was only 20 years ago. I'm 60. So this was in my 40s. I learned what it was when I was 37. So it's not that long ago. But now I traveled to Europe. I flew at night. Did I feel it? Of course. And I actually documented my trip. But did I think that in my factory staring at those sales reps 30 years ago? Never in a million years.
And I think that's one of the things you mentioned that like is inspiring about your story when you talk to other people, when people read your books, the way that you put yourself purposefully in situations where you know you're going to either be afraid or where something is going to be a challenge for you, and you put yourself. I know we've talked about like with your boat when it comes to taking it out for long journeys on the ocean and taking it places. That's something that's scary for you. But in doing that, it's been, you've been able to learn that you can do these things and you can accomplish things despite your fears, which is pretty interesting.
People need to understand that it's anxiety. It's only anxiety. And I say that with the knowledge, okay? And sometimes I get yelled at on Facebook, on emails, sometimes from the crowd, because they always, you don't understand. Yeah, but my doctor says, and I've been through all that. Okay. I've been tested. I know it. And there's no feeling, no thought, nothing that you have or been through that I haven't been through, that I haven't thought about. Nothing. So I have been tested. I have come out on the other side. So if fear controls your life, you're not living. And it's easy for me to say, because I am living the life that I imagined that I didn't think I could do 30 years ago. And that's what I want to inspire people. Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
And this happened today. I work out every day, okay? I didn't feel like working out. But I'm in my 60s. I got arthritis. I got torn labrums. I've got all kinds of problems. Guess what I do every single day? I go on my iPad around 12 o'clock, and I watch Dorian Yates. I watch Michael Hearn. I watch Mike Metzger for about 15 minutes. You know why? I want to get inspired. They're stronger than me. They're bigger than me. They're better than me. But it inspires me to get in the gym and go work out. So what I want to do, and this is great, Drew, because you're my first podcast with me screaming from the mountaintops, telling people that you're going to listen to me, and I'm going to explain to you in detail what it is that's going on in your brain causing your anxiety. And I'm going to actually have a slideshow showing that for about 15, maybe 10 minutes. And then I'm going to show you how you're going to take and desensitize yourself and be me. And let me be the guy that you go to and you say, essentially, without sounding corny, if he can go through all that crap and you read my book and he can go through all that shit and he's a millionaire and he's driving that boat and he could go to wherever, Europe, then I'm not going to be afraid to go to the gym, the supermarket, to stand in front of 5 people. That's what I want to do.
I think that's a really important distinction. I love the way you just laid that out, because I've read those comments too that you're talking about, or I understand that criticism of feeling like, yeah, well, this works for you. You don't understand my brain, or like, it may not be that easy for me, but you wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be listening to this if you weren't looking for something to inspire you, right? And whether or not specifically what you're saying works the same way for everybody, and we understand like everybody has their own demons, their own issues they're going through. It still is good and inspiring to listen to how a person's story, one person's example, can be set for you, and how you can either model yourself off of that or learn from that and take whatever is valuable to you from it, because I think there's a lot of value in hearing all those types of things.
There is, Drew. And what I want to also say is this. Everybody's got a book. And I say that all the time. Everybody's got a book. And I've heard hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands, of stories. And, people have been abused, sexually abused. People have been, have drug problems. And we've all come from something, okay? I've had situations in my life that's caused problems. But my issues, my mental issues, whether they be inherited, whatever it might be, I'm here. So from hugging a toilet, not leaving, crying, not telling my wife, nobody knowing until my 30s exactly what was wrong with me, it's okay. If drugs help you live your life, then go get prescriptions, take the drugs, but don't take them for a reason to live the life you imagine. Don't just take them to lay on a couch and be comfortable with yourself. I want people to get out of their comfort zone. It's like stretching a rubber band, okay? I want people to take the 10 steps. If they get nervous at 10, go 12, and then you can go back to the 10.
Yeah.
And that's the only. Sorry, I don't mean to ramble, but this is
No. This is what the podcast is about. It's what it's all
okay.
for, and
So I have a
we
black
want to
cat.
hear this type of stuff.
My black cat's called Tuca, and Tuca's
Yeah.
petrified of everything. I love him, but he's petrified of everything. And he's a young cat. We bought it for whatever. It's a long story, but anyway, when I open the door, he meets me at the door. He's almost like a dog, and he's petrified to go outside. Well, now he took a step outside. Then he went into the garage. The other day, I couldn't find him because he was outside. You know what he was doing? He was so afraid. Right. He was brick by brick by brick. And this is a cat. And they're skittish anyway, most of them.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying, it's kind of the analogy of what I'm trying to say. If you say to somebody, okay, this is what I want you to do. I know you're petrified to leave your house, but tomorrow at 9 o'clock, I want you to be at Logan Airport. You're going to get on a plane. You're going to go 12 hours. You're going to land in Europe. That's not what I'm saying.
No,
It's
you can't
brick
just
by
jump
brick.
into
No,
the water like that. Yeah.
because that takes your glands and your whole system, and all it does is it's the uh-oh. Every time you say uh-oh or the what ifs or the yeah buts, it turns a negative. It makes it your glands and your fight or flight response goes into, let's get out of here. And we don't want.
So it's like training any muscle, basically. You can't if you've never lifted weights before, you're not going to lift 200 pounds, but you're going to bench press 200 pounds. You're going to bench press 30, 40, and the next week you'll bench press 60 until you get up to that. And I think that's an important thing to think about when you have these goals and these fears that are so daunting, that you have to approach them step by step, brick by brick, instead of just tackling the one big thing.
The other thing is explaining to people. And one of the things that helped me was when I finally told my wife, and it's in my book, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway. It's all about when I saw an infomercial. It was at 2 a.m. I woke my wife up and explained to her, and we were both crying. But it was the start of my healing. And I realized that by telling somebody what was going on, it was releasing all that fear, all that angst. And guess what? I used it, but I didn't blame things on it anymore. Yeah, I feel uncomfortable, going to a Little League meeting. Think about that. Going to a Little League meeting with all my friends. These are my buddies, my neighborhood guys. But I had to talk maybe once or twice because I was vice president. And when I knew I had to talk, I'd be late for the meeting. Right. So what I used to do is make excuses. Once I told my wife what it was, she understood. We both understood. We found out all the information we possibly could find out about it. And just like the blow molding machines, I went to work on fixing myself, finding out about these fight or flight responses, finding out about the frontal lobes and how you can help yourself and how you can fix yourself. Sure. And you can do it.
I love that. So then let's, we want to keep these podcasts, to half an hour. So we still have some more time, but let's then dive in a little bit to some more specific, like for you, what was like you've mentioned public speaking, but what's another like big fear that you had to brick by brick accomplish? I'm thinking of, you talking about being agoraphobic and the way you talked about your cats, the brick by brick to go outside. I wonder if you had a similar type of story or experience where you took steps slowly to get to a place where you were no longer afraid of a certain thing.
Well, if it's okay with you, what I'm going to do is I'll request a whole half hour on this, but I can give you an example.
Definitely. We'll do a much deeper dive, but for this one, let's give a quick example then.
One of the things when you sell is obviously you travel. And in my situation is I'm competing against 1,200 other customers. Nobody's ever walked into my office and ordered a truckload of containers. You got to go find them, then you have to travel to them, and so on and so forth. So that was the beginning of me and my agoraphobia, and that's pretty much my inspirational story, how I became successful going through that. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing besides public speaking, I would say still, is flying. Mm-hmm. Because when you're flying, obviously you have no control. And in addition to that, you're alone with your thoughts. Right. And when you're alone with your thoughts and you're 35,000 feet, you can actually, And I still do, even though I'll tell you this, and I call myself, somebody called me this, and I loved it so much when a New York Times bestseller, Casey Sherman, decided to rewrite my book. We both talked about it. He loved it. So we call it Anxiety Warrior.
Right.
So when
You
I
can
start,
check that out. That's on Amazon and
thank
all
you.
over the internet. You can find that.
And by the way, all profits for the books go to Bradley Hospital. And I don't make any money on the books. So I just wanted to get that out. But I would say flying. And years ago, it used to be 3 to 4 weeks prior to me flying. I used to try and trick my brain into making an excuse that I'm not going to go. Even if it was a vacation, I would say I got to work. So until the day of, and I used to have the shits. I literally get a fever. This is how your brain and your body works to prevent and provide that ammunition you need. And I used to get physically sick.
Your brain could cause an actual physical reaction for you.
100%. My wife used to say, you used to get sick all the time around your birthday, which is February. February vacation, we'd travel. And that's what happened. So right now, the fear of public speaking, but guess what I do, Drew, when I get up in front? I tell people.
Yeah, I'm scared right now. I'm terrified.
Dean College, it was 800 people. You could see it online. And I'm up there and I start talking and I said, and by the way, I have a deadly fear of speaking in public. And we talk about the introduction. The girl talks about, she introduced me. She said it because it's true. But by telling people that, I'm not giving what I call the beast. I used to call it the thing. Now I call it the beast. I'm not giving it legs. It's almost like, okay, I just told people I'm petrified. What are you going to do?
It's only dangerous if it's invisible, type of thing. When you can see it, it can't hurt you, or the same way. And I love that idea that, so we've done being honest and open about it and laying the brick by brick foundation. But for fears like flying, you can't really, there's not really a brick by brick, approach you can take to being afraid of flying. So how do you approach that? Was there, how do you get over that? I mean, I'm sure you still deal with that fear. It's a very rational fear. But what are ways that you can overcome that as someone who needs to take flights for a business?
Well, I'll tell you what. Do you remember I told you about the inspirational, the YouTube videos that I used to, that I watch right before I train? Okay. Well, I'm trying to do two things at once and I can't because I'm illiterate when it comes to this stuff. So I'm trying to get on my phone, and it's called Joy, and it's on my phone. And what it does is there's actual things that I read before and during my flight. And all they are their motivational sayings that help, that kickstart that, okay, I'm on a plane. And one of the biggest ones, and this is very difficult for people to understand, is nobody's coming. Nobody's coming is a tool I use, but you can't just start off with that. Nobody's coming is something where you need to rely on yourself. The best coach is a mirror. You need to rely on yourself. And when you get to that point, getting on a plane, you're going to sit down and you're going to feel that anxiety for a little bit, that A word for a little bit, and it's going to go from a 10 being the worst or a 9 down to a 1 by the time you take off. And it's just that. And that is my toolbox. That's what I use. And I have completely managed it using my toolbox.
That's great. And I mean, that toolbox analogy really works because I think it's important to point out that the tools in your toolbox and that you're offering, that anyone can take those tools and use those tools, but we're all building a different individual project, right? So you may have all the tools correct to build a desk, but if you're baking a cake, those tools won't be of use to you. But at least you'll have those tools for when you do need to build a desk, type of analogy of thinking.
Yeah, here's a few of them. Be strong enough not to fight. Okay, that's a strong one because fighting it only makes it worse, and that's what Jackie Robinson had to go through. He had to be strong enough not to fight. Do the things you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Okay, I know they sound simplistic, but all they're doing is reminding my subconscious mind, okay, we've been here. We're just going to do it again.
Right.
And after a while, you don't even remember you're on a plane. And people have to realize that what I'm saying, I live. I don't tell,
Sure.
there's no reason for me to exaggerate at all or embellish. I've been
Yeah.
through it all, and I'm telling you what I'm dealing with and what I've dealt with. You can get through it.
And hopefully it's helpful too, just to understand and have that example of someone being so open and honest about it too, because that clearly is a very necessary first step, right? Where if you aren't open and honest with yourself that you need these steps and you need to take care of yourself and be aware of your anxieties and fears, then you're not going to be able to then lay the foundations and do the things that you're talking about to be able to overcome those fears, you know?
You know when you don't have anxiety, Drew? When you're dead.
Yeah.
I choose to have a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of nervousness over that part. So
Right.
so what I'm trying to say is we all have anxiety. If you don't have anxiety, you're not living.
Right.
And the thing is, you need to understand that saying you have anxiety, saying you're uncomfortable, there's nothing wrong with that. When it gets to the point of stopping you from doing something, that's where you need to reevaluate and figure out and listen and how to manage it and how to live your life. That's what you do. That's what has to happen.
And that also becomes a little bit about like discovering what it is I want and what it is my goals are and what's holding me back from them. And if it's fear and anxiety, then that's something that you need to, learn to overcome in order to live your life, which is
Let
really
me ask
great.
you a question. What are you afraid of?
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear?
Oh man, my biggest fear. I'd have to say, like my biggest irrational fear would be like being buried alive. That just makes me feel very scared. But my biggest fear of like in real life would be that failure and the fear of of not being enough or letting those around me down, and that fear of self and the amount of self doubt is very much there. I don't think I have as much of a tangible thing like flying, but the fear
Irrational
is there.
fear is a lot more, believe it or not, a lot more tangible than the tangible.
Right? Yeah.
Self-doubt, there's nothing wrong with self-doubt. Okay, everybody has self-doubt. Starting a new job, maybe moving across the country,
Yes.
whatever it might be, you're going to doubt yourself. But the thing you have to remember is you have to take the courage that's inside of you, and everybody has it. Everybody has it. Everybody has that courage, and everybody has to find a way, find an inspiration, somebody who inspires you, whether it be that person, that book, or whatever. Again, I'm reading quotes on my phone to go on a plane.
Right.
I'm watching somebody on YouTube to go work out. I'm 60.
Right.
I've made it. I've got enough money in the bank to do anything I want to do. And I'm still doing those things. So there's nothing wrong with finding anything or somebody or someone that inspires you. You don't even have to say it out loud.
Yeah. And you find those are typically things that inspire you, or are for certain fears or certain times, are they things that maybe distract you from your fear, or that make you think about it a different way? I don't know if those are also as valuable to you, or if you find it most valuable to find something that directly makes you feel inspired to do the specific thing.
The last thing I'll leave you with is this. The number one thing people need to do is, and it goes with the front cortex, and it goes with your brain, and it goes with behavioral, and is visualization. And I'm not talking about sitting in a room that's dark with your legs crossed, and and there's nothing wrong with meditation. Please don't have anybody text me or email me saying, what's wrong with you? I think it's great. But when I was thinking and I was looking at those salespeople saying, I'm never going to be able to do that. When I realized what it was with me, my anxiety, self-doubt was down here. That was a gimme. That was in the briefcase. I had to get through I had to start trimming that anxiety tree. The self-doubt, no. What I started to do was say to myself, because this is what people need to understand. You have to say to yourself, okay, I do have that self-doubt. I am concerned. I am nervous. But you know what? But you truly have to believe, why not you? Don't say it. And I'm saying this with love in my voice because I love you.
Oh yeah.
I love your family. Don't nod your head and say, why not me? If you truly don't believe in it, if you look around, I have signs that say, don't say do. And I do have signs in here that say, why not me? Because why not me? Why them? Okay, I can't hit a 99-mile-an-hour curveball, but guess what? I can do what it is I want to do. And if you truly believe in something that you want to be, then go F and do it.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. I love it. Well, so we can wrap things up then. We will leave with just a couple of quick promotional comments. For one, if you are interested in what Brian is saying and want to learn more, you can check out his website. It's brianbenaduce.com. We also have he also has 2 books published that you can buy on Amazon. I believe also on that website you can access them, right, Brian? You'll be able to do that?
I've had that asked of me, and I would say it's easier to go through Amazon. Scared to death. I know. I'm sorry to say this, but Scared to Death, Do It Anyway is my favorite. It's my first book. It's just to the point. The Anxiety Warrior was very well written. It's essentially Scared to Death, Do It Anyway, just rewritten by Casey Sherman, who I love. He wrote a great forward. But thank you. Yes, Scared to Death, Do It Anyway is the book.
Great. So yeah, that's the book. You can check those out. And if you're interested, Brian, you're also going to be doing some speaking or looking to do some more motivational speaking tours and get it back on the road doing that. And you can reach out to Brian if you're listening to this and are interested in having him come to either your campus or your company or place of work or doing something on Zoom or something like that. And Brian, what's a good place they can reach you?
They can reach me at my email address, which is B as in boy, Edward, Nancy, Edward, 24954 at AOL.com. Yes, that's AOL.com. If you Google my name, things come up. People can get a hold of me.
Use Google.
We've got 11 Zoom meetings. I'm so sick of these Zoom meetings, but I'm sorry. We've got 11 in the next 2 weeks, so I'm proud of that. So sure, love to talk about it.
That's great. Well, thank you for listening. We'll be back next week. I'm not sure what we'll be talking about, but there'll be some promotional material available for it. And we'll be diving deeper into anxiety, dealing with fear, agoraphobia, as well as general, advice on business and sales and, making money. And that's what we're going to be talking about. So we're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Drew. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. We'll talk soon.